Hello. Today I'm joined by data and AI leader and author Tiankai Feng, who's going to be at Tech Show Frankfurt this year. So thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm great. Good to be here.
Lovely. So my first question for you is, you talk about making data and AI more human and more approachable. In practical terms, what changes when organizations take that seriously?
Yeah, I think, basically, the reason why I'm saying we need to make him a human is because I feel like it's too much technologically focused, right?
Mm.
So, in a way, we're all very excited about the newest models, the newest platform, the newest tools. And we don't focus enough on what's in it for the human being, actually, right? Because in the end, even when we talk about value and when we talk about impact, it's all about the human value and the human impact that we have, and that might be measured in euros or in other satisfaction scores. But in the end, it's all about the human experience and human value getting out of it. So I hope that when we do become more human, it's all more intentional, right? So instead of everyone just rationally doing what's right about data and AI, they emotionally connect to the reason behind it, and they actually want to drive success with data and AI because they identify with it more on their own, and that is what I'm hoping for.
And as we know, there's no shortage of AI ambition right now. Where do you most often see that ambition break down when organizations try to turn it into real value?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, right? Sometimes it feels like that the personal rewards and what's in it for the individual, it's too disconnected by what is communicated as the bigger picture abstract goal, right? So
Mm.
imagine that a company wants to be more profitable, right? So it have that big goal of how much percentage points it becomes more profitable. But for the people on the ground that are actually doing the day-to-day work, that doesn't mean anything to them, right? What's
Mm.
in it for them to be more profitable in their day to day? They don't really connect with it, right? So what they do care about is the day to day tasks they have, that they can spend time more on tasks that they actually enjoy doing, that they work with the right people on the right projects. This is what they really care about. And as long as we don't actually frame the bigger strategic goals into also individual rewards that's in it for the individual, I think we're going to lose people because they are only half-heartedly doing it because they don't really believe in it on their own. They're just doing because they want to be a good citizen. And maybe they don't even want to be a good citizen and they're silently sabotaging it too, right? So I think this is where it really often breaks down.
Mm. And I've been reading a bit about your session before Tech Show Frankfurt, and it focuses on moving from this kind of excitement period to the value period. Is there a moment, or what is the moment, where organizations typically realize they're not getting the impact they expected?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. In actually my book, Humanizing AI Strategy, I call it pilot theater. And what basically it means is it always happens in three acts, right? So, act one, someone builds a very cool application with AI. Act two, everyone says, wow, this is really cool. And act three is no one knows what to use it for, so it slowly dies, right?
Yeah.
That is kind of the pilot theater in three acts. And what I hope that we can actually more focus on is not just the excitement for the technology and what is possible to do. It's more about why should we do it, right? Not how should we do it, but why. And that means we need to solve actual problems in our business, right? And that is why I think we should move from just excitement for what is possible into actually value through purpose, right? So let's define together what the purpose actually is. And purpose for me actually is four elements combined, right? So what is exciting is number one, because we need that human excitement for technology to at least have good ideas, right? That needs to be aligned with what is aligned with business strategy, right? Does it actually help with our business goals or not? Then that needs to be aligned with what is ethical to do, right? Both from a compliance point of view, but also as a legal point of view, and how should we be better towards society point of view. And then also what is feasible to do, not only from a technology point of view, but also from a skill set and talent point of view, if we have the right people with the right skills to do it. And only by having those four elements tackled, I think we can be driven by purpose more rather than only by basically excitement for the technology, because this is where it quickly breaks down, right? And I hope that in my session we can exactly talk about that more.
Yeah, and what you've kind of pinpointed there is what I'm interested in, because there's all these different things where it can break down, as you just mentioned. But when these initiatives stall, how often is it the issue is about people and culture and the ways of working rather than the actual technology itself?
Yeah, I would even say most of the time it's because of the people and culture, right?
Mm.
I mean, when initiatives stall, normally there's a disconnect between why has been started in the first place and how it moves forward to actually have impact, right? So typically, if you think about like the value chain of any application, you start with experimentation and prototyping, and then you move on into piloting and moving things into production, right? And I think when we actually start prototyping and experimenting, we don't often do it with hypothesis enough and with actual thinking how that would help. It's just let's try it out and let's see what happens, right? And this is why it's so hard to move that then into production, right? Because once you start moving things into production, then actually you need to have a lot more rules and a lot more investment of time and governance into it than before. And suddenly it becomes an ROI calculation, right? Is that use case even worth me spending all that energy to maintain it and to run it and to host it and to govern it? And what is the business case behind it? And this is where, if there wasn't any thinking behind what problem that solves, things very quickly go down or they stall, right? Because until there's an answer, nothing can move forward. And that's kind of the
Mm.
idea.
You'll be showing a framework in your session. If you had to boil it down or distill it down, is there a question that every leader should ask before starting an AI initiative?
Yeah, I mean, the framework itself is an acronym. It's called FOREST, right? And basically, the whole analogy behind it is that in AI, it's like not seeing the forest for the trees, right? We focus too much on technology and don't see the bigger picture, so to say, right? So, if I would tell basically any leaders to consider what is to think about the whole forest and not about the singular trees. And I think people can, of course, listen more to the session to understand what that exactly means, but really consider the bigger picture always and not just one thing, because sooner or later it's going to bite you back. And if you haven't considered the bad things, they're going to be the reasons why you have to stop something as well.
And
Definitely.
as a data and AI leader, I like that creativity, and you must have had to find creative ways to make data more approachable, especially if you're going to
Really?
conferences and you're seeing a variety of people. What's the simplest way you've seen someone make a complex idea click for a team?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has different talents, right? For me, I've been a musician most of my life. So I use actually a lot of music and I write songs and parodies as well to make the topics more approachable. But I think everyone has different ways of how they can bring in their authentic selves to make things more approachable, right? One thing that I think I find in common everywhere is to use analogies that the audience relates to, right? So for example, I work with different companies from different industries, right? So, if I would work with a sports company, I would use a sports analogy. So, for example, that data and AI is a team sport, right? Everyone has a role to play, but we all have a common goal. Then I talk, for example, to an energy company. So suddenly it's an analogy about infrastructure, right? Let's think about the entire infrastructure. Everything has to work together so we can enable the whole thing to work. So it's a running system, right? And depending on who you're talking to, the more you understand what their context is and what their expertise is in, the better you can maybe relate to what they understand. So for them, it makes click, right? Everything else, expecting them to just understand us proactively, I think will be a lost cause because why would they spend their time to even think about it that deeply, right? We are the ones who are making sure that people should understand it. So the more we can use analogies and metaphors from the space that we talk to and the audience that we talk to, the better it can be.
And if leaders leave your sessions with just one thing they do differently next month, what would you want that to be?
I think it would be spending more time with the people, understanding them, and not just deciding for them, right? I feel like with AI specifically, it can cause very strong emotions nowadays, right? It can be strong enthusiasm, it can be a big anxiety around the fear of job loss, right? Everyone has a lot of emotions around AI. And as long as you don't understand what those are, you are very likely saying something wrong. And with saying something wrong, the difficulty is that you can very quickly lose the trust and it's very hard to earn back, right? So I think when it's around these topics that are so polarizing and so emotional for people, understand the people first that you're talking to before you then say something and then say it and frame it in the right way, especially when it comes to change around AI.
I can't wait to see what you have in store for us next month at Tech Show Frankfurt. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, good. I mean, people can reach out via LinkedIn as well if they want to connect with me. And otherwise, yeah, I look forward to the tech show.